All right, let's talk about a word that, well, it makes most of us a little uncomfortable. Shamelessness. But here's a thought. What if it's not a flaw? What if it's actually a superpower, a strategic tool you can use to get ahead in life? Let's really dig into this. So the creator behind this idea kicks things off with this just incredibly powerful statement. They don't run from the label shameless. They own it. And that right there, it just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it? It makes you think, wait a minute, have I been looking at this all wrong? Okay, so let's be super clear about what we mean here. We're not talking about having no morals or being a bad person. Nope. We're talking about strategic shamelessness. It's really just the ability to do what's best for you without getting stuck in that loop of, oh my God, what will people think? It's a way to break free from the chains we put on ourselves. First up, let's look at an area where this fear can be just absolutely crippling for people, our careers. Now, this is such an interesting idea, right? A total paradox. You spend years, maybe even decades, getting educated, piling up degrees, but could those very achievements actually be trapping you? Let's take a look. And this really shows you the battle going on inside someone's head. On one side, you've got all these amazing qualifications, a PhD, other advanced degrees, but on the other side, a crippling fear of what other people will think. The source talks about these highly educated people who just can't find that perfect job. And the fear, this job is beneath me, or what will my family say? It completely paralyzes them. They can't start anything. And this is the path it leads down. It's like a spiral. You work so hard for the degree, but then the job market's tough. So that shame of not living up to some imaginary standard, it keeps you from taking any job at all. And before you know it, years have gone by. The source actually points out that people often look back around age 40 with just this massive regret, watching others who started small and built something incredible. So what's the answer? The shameless approach is to just start. Do something. Anything. Like a tiny plant that has to push through concrete. You've got to begin somewhere. Take that job. Launch that tiny business. Just get moving. Your qualifications are supposed to be a launch pad, not a cage. Don't let what other people might say bankrupt your entire future. Okay, let's shift gears to another topic that makes almost everyone squirm. Money, and specifically asking for money that people owe you. Just think about this for a second. When somebody needed help, they were bold enough to ask you for a loan, right? They had to overcome their own pride or hesitation. They were, you could say, shameless enough to ask for what they needed. Well, here's the flip side of that coin. If they were shameless enough to ask you for it, you need to be shameless enough to ask for it back. It's that simple. This is a two-way street. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your own financial health just to be polite. And this really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? This is the fear that stops us. We're so worried about messing up a friendship or a family relationship. But the source asks a really sharp question here. What kind of relationship is it really if it falls apart the second you ask for your own money back? A real solid relationship should be strong enough to handle an honest conversation about what's fair. All right, for our last section, we're going into maybe the most personal area of all, love and marriage. How does this idea of shamelessness fit in here? The main idea here is pretty simple but so important. Inside a marriage, there's just no room for shame when it comes to expressing love and affection. It's supposed to be the ultimate safe space, right? A place where you can be totally vulnerable without fear of judgment. And it's so important to remember that physical intimacy isn't just something that happens. It's a real human need. It's a desire. And crucially, it's a mutual responsibility between both partners. When you see it like that, it takes away any of that awkwardness or stigma about one person having to initiate or talk about what they need. So really, the bottom line is this. Being open with your spouse about your needs and your desires isn't something to be ashamed of. It's actually a core part of the whole commitment. It's about taking care of each other, listening to each other, and responding to each other. It's a shared responsibility. Okay, so we've talked about work, we've talked about money, and we've talked about love. Let's pull all these threads together and really nail down the main takeaway here. So here it is, in a nutshell. 3 key areas to practice this strategic shamelessness. First, in your work, be shameless enough to start somewhere, anywhere, no matter what your degree says. Second, with money, be shameless enough to ask for what is rightfully yours without feeling guilty. And third, in love, be shameless enough to talk openly with your partner about your needs. See, these are 3 incredibly powerful ways to stop letting that fear of what other people think run your life. And that really leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Just take a second and ask yourself, where in my life is shame holding me back? Big or small? Where is that fear of looking silly or being judged stopping me from doing something? And what could change? What could you achieve if you just decided to be a little more strategically shameless?